I discovered was that, well, as we'll go into this, you'll see that the channeling, what you're actually channeling is the truth of what you are. And when you begin channeling, you feel that there's me, the channel, and there's the being that I'm channeling, or whatever I'm channeling. There's two things. There's me, the channel, and there's the whatever's being channeled. And awakening is kind of similar, because in awakening you do feel like as if you're channeling something. It's so much more than what you think you are. You know, you are this limited being. You know this compared to what you experience when you wake up. There's something profoundly more than your personal identity, your personal self. Just profoundly, unlimitedly, infinitely more than what you considered yourself. It's very clear, because that's your experience. You know, that this thing. And people that have a sudden awakening, as I did when I was 22, it's not you, not what you thought of as you at all. In even the remotest sense, it has nothing like what you were before the awakening. It's absolutely, completely different. My awakening was, I was essentially love. I was the embodiment of love. I was no longer a person. That was very clear. And the energy that came through me healed many people in the short 10 days that I experienced this, without me doing anything. I was just the embodiment of love, and everyone around me could kind of tell that. And they were drawn to this, to get healing that they needed, and it happened. You know, it was a profound experience. And then slowly the identity of Peter came back again. It was terribly disappointing. I kind of liked Peter before that in many ways. But compared to this, you know, Peter is not something to really be considered, although I did. I was just sort of triggered back into it by friends, people that I knew, neighbors, my wife, you know, wanted to have the person that she knew as me back again, even though this was this profound unconditional love. For her, it was kind of frightening to see someone who was completely different. Oh, thank you. Yeah, keep telling me about that, how that healing is going, and what's going on with that. Thank you. Yeah. So it relates to channeling in a way, because often I feel the deeper I go into this and transmissions happen, it feels very much like I'm transmitting or channeling something else, not me, not a personal me by any means, you know, so far, far, vastly beyond what I am as a person, this limited body mind, so far beyond that that's why it feels like channeling. But eventually you come to realize that this person that you thought you were is not what you are, you know. And as awakening really settles in, there's no longer this feeling of two, of a channel and something being channeled. The channel kind of dissolves. The channel just sort of falls away. And a few years ago, I had this image that came to me. I often thought, like, when I'm channeling for healing or teaching or anything, that this channel needs to be clear. It needs to be clean, like a pipe. If you took a pipe, you know, it has a hole in the middle and an outside structure, metal or whatever it is, and inside there's nothing there. So water, so things can flow through it. And it's the same with the channel. You want to clear the vehicle out, so there's only, it allows the full impact of whatever's being channeled to flow through, and you're not interfering with it with your own thoughts and opinions and things like that. You're letting that be cleared out so there's room for this to flow through, and that feels wonderful to do that. But as you do this often enough, over a period of years, the structure of the pipe, the outside pipe, also ends up dissolving, so that there is no longer a conduit, there's no longer a pipe, there's only what is being channeled. And that's awakening. Awakening is you're coming into the truth of what you are. The truth of what you are. This is very important to understand. Because you are this infinite, this limitless, this eternal, this beyond any thoughts, beyond the reach of any possibility of thought. Your mind can never imagine this. It can't even come remotely close to imagining what this is. So part of it, our process of awakening, is to let go of all our thoughts, to realize that thoughts are limited. And essentially what happens eventually, it's not a forceful, willful thing. We're just not interested anymore. There's something else that is so much more powerful, so much more wonderful, that thoughts just don't compare. Even thoughts of love or the divine or God don't compare with the actuality of what we experience. So we let them go. They're just not interesting anymore. They don't grab our attention as they used to. They just sort of fade. And the same with the being who we feel is the channel, the person, the individual identity. We're just not interested anymore. It just sort of fades over time. It just fades. The more we experience this, what I call the spiritual heart, the more we live and think through this, the spiritual heart, something that is not our limited personal identity, that is so far beyond our personal identity. The personal identity just isn't interesting anymore. You know, I mean, if you're still in the personal identity, it's very interesting, isn't it? You're fascinated with me, fascinated with I, my story, my life, my suffering, my childhood. I was very fascinated with my childhood. You know, it was a difficult, challenging childhood, and I did a lot of things that other children would be afraid to do, would never do. And in that way, people, you know, my friends thought me as kind of heroic or like extremely brave and courageous, although I wasn't. I was always afraid, but I did do things that other people wouldn't even consider doing. And I don't know if Carol, or Susan rather, if you're watching this, but you had a question for Lincoln. Lincoln is another person, and it's interesting because he considers channeling as well, but he clearly lives in this state of the thing that's being channeled, you know, and I think he's aware of this. But his childhood was very different than mine and Susan's, in that, you know, Susan and I had a very challenging, you know, childhood, like abusive parents, and my parents were alcoholics, and it was challenging. It wasn't an easy situation to grow up in. And Lincoln's experience was his parents were very loving to him, very extremely loving to him. And yet both of us woke up, you know? So it doesn't really matter. So Susan's question was that, you know, is that helpful? Is it better? You know, am I stuck if I've had a very abusive childhood and can't wake up? Well, no, I woke up, and I don't know many people that have had more of an abusive childhood than I did. I haven't met any yet, but I'm sure there are some. Yeah, I saw there was a TV show called Shameless about children growing up with these very dysfunctional alcoholic parents. Low network connection. Ooh, okay. I hope this is still working on Facebook Live anyways. And yeah, so yes, there isn't any, everything that happens in our life is used to wake up, basically. And my abusive childhood was extremely helpful to my awakening, and also not helpful in both ways. You know, I became very attached to my independent personal self that was able to survive that kind of a childhood, and the things that I did to be able to survive that, and the things that I did that seemed so outrageously fearless, although they weren't fearless at all, but it seemed like that to other people. So those were wonderful stories to tell to myself and other people, you know. But still, it's a story. And to be attached to that story prevents us from seeing what else is here. Waking up is finding out what else is here. What else is here beyond this story? What else is here that is not a story? What else is here that cannot be made into a story? You cannot make the limitless and the infinite into a story. A story needs some kind of parameter and structure. And this is beyond anything like that. Beyond anything like that. So for you to settle into what is here, awakening has two things. One, we let go of everything that's in the way. As John Butler says, the alternatives. We let go of all the alternatives. And everything in life is an alternative. Everything we perceive and think and believe is an alternative to truth, to reality, to this that we are. So one part of it is letting go of that. And the other part of it is experiencing what is real. What is here when we let go of everything? Because that experience makes all the alternatives pale in comparison. You know, in those 10 days when I was 22, all alternatives just vanish. It's an instant awakening. They're just blown away. You know, they're just not there anymore. And what you experience is so powerful that you don't care. You don't want any of that back. You're fine with being with this that you cannot understand, that you cannot make a story or a thought out of. You're more than okay being with this. So both ways take us to this. If we never experience this, the letting go is challenging, because we have to let go of everything, you know? Everything. There's a lot in everything. There's a lot in everything that we think, perceive, and believe. And how we see the world. We see the world through our thoughts, through our conditioned thoughts. We've been programmed and conditioned to be a certain way. Society wants us to be a consumer. That's our job. And also, if we went to school, to work in a factory. School is basically to obey the rules, learn these structures, be able to work in a factory, and consume. These are the main things. And the third most important thing is support wars. You know, believe that wars are good. If you're told that they are, believe that. Because war is not good. In any situation, it's not good. And yet we believe that some wars are good, if we're told that, or at least many of us do. That's what we're conditioned to do. So our lives are conditioned, programmed, like robots, really. I mean, we're not all exactly the same, because our conditioning happened in different ways. Our parents were different. They were conditioned in a different way, so they gave us a little bit of different conditioning than other parents did. Lincoln's parents were very loving and conditioned him in this loving way. My parents were not like that. and conditioned me in their way. I rebelled against that, against what they told me, and I didn't accept a lot of their conditioning. I just knew as a young child it wasn't there. At the same time, for me, one of the benefits of growing up in an abusive household for me was that when I was alone, I felt this enormous peace and love and bliss just everywhere. When I was alone out in nature, I just felt this. It just kind of came over me. This is actually reality. And that experience of reality, which maybe came because I wasn't quite as conditioned as most people. I didn't believe what my parents told me. I didn't believe what my teachers told me. I didn't believe what adults said. I didn't take that conditioning in. I was sort of rebelling against it because it didn't seem good. And yet I found something that was good, which I couldn't explain. I called it the presence of God. But, that was just a word to try and explain to me why I was feeling so good for no apparent reason at all. That was my protection. Low network connection. Okay. Well, I hope that's not causing any problems. So this transmission that happens with me, that you may feel, you may experience, most people do, is this, that I truly am, not my personal self, resonating with what you truly are, not your personal self, what you truly are, your true being. Which you cannot understand with your mind. You don't need to understand it. You only need to feel it, to experience it. What is this that's beyond all thought? What is this that's beyond all story? What is this? And don't make a story out of it. When I ask the question, what is this? What is this spiritual heart? What is this true self? This infinite, eternal beingness. What is this? Don't use any of those words to mean anything. The direct experience is beyond all those words that I just said. And any answers that you come up with. So what I suggest to you is to just let it be. To let all thoughts go and just let this be. What is beyond all that? What is it when you let all the alternatives go? When you let all the alternatives go. When we feel like we're channeling, we feel like, I'm channeling this. This is God. This is the infinite. I'm channeling this. Me, the channel. And when we do finally wake up to what we are, we realize this I, me, the channel is not real. It's programmed. It's a conditioned thought. And when that is gone, this is here, shining, real, unchanging, a fundamental reality. You may have experienced this and felt a little bit uncomfortable because it's new and you can't understand it with your mind. It's the eternal mystery. It will always be a mystery. If it becomes not a mystery to your mind, then you've lost it. You cannot understand this with your mind. And that's good. That's fine. Because then you're really experiencing it. You can let it be what it is without having to force it into some thought that it's not. You've heard the phrase that man is made in God's image. And this is also what it's talking about. The second part of that is that man has made himself and herself in man's image, imagined himself in man's image, as a human, as a person, as a name and form, as something limited to a body and mind. So our natural self is this unlimited, infinite isness, beingness, whatever. We don't have words for this. There is nothing in our vocabulary that can touch in any way what this is. And that's perfect. That's wonderful. We don't need to. I like that Lincoln had said, I saw one of his videos, and he talked about most teachers, spiritual teachers, are teaching from their mind. To your mind. And most of the time, that doesn't touch this, which is beyond mind. Beyond the teacher's mind and beyond your mind. Can you feel that? Can you feel this? It's not of the mind. And if you do feel this, be comfortable. Just relax into it. Let it be what it is. Whatever arises in you, let it be. Let it be. You don't need to make a thought about it. You don't know what it is. You know, when we have certain emotions like fear, we're really just labeling energy as fear, and then it feels like fear. Our mind labels that energy as fear, and it feels like fear. Labels it as joy, and it feels like joy. But it's the same energy. So if you allow whatever arises, whatever emotions, whatever arises, whatever sensations, perceptions, you just let them be what they are without labeling them. Without thinking you know what they are, you'll learn a lot. Not necessarily in a mental way. Often when I I'm in deep samadhi, just letting go. It's not any mystical thing. The structure, the visual forms that I see, the structure of what I see, don't hold together anymore. It's like I'm looking at pure energy. You know, that could be frightening the first time for people. I know when they start feeling this energy in their body, the life force energy, their life force energy, for the first time, it can be disconcerting to them because they want to label it, and they could label it as fear or something, you know, or nervous breakdown or something, you know, they're going crazy or something. It frightens them. But eventually, you know, the people who have been with me who've worked through this realize just let it be, and then it's wonderful. This is life force energy. This is the energy of being alive. It's a wonderful thing to experience. Not what your mind told you, which is all usually negative and frightful and things to be afraid of. Part of the beauty of my abusive childhood was that I learned to do things in spite of fear. I had to, you know, to function in the world, I had to, because I was always afraid. So it was a wonderful training to be able to let fear be, but do it anyway, but open to it anyway. So when new things come, it was maybe easier than me for most people to be able to accept that and be with it until it revealed what it really was. So often the first thoughts were fear. You know, you might have had this experience where you have breakthroughs, right? Spiritual breakthroughs, and it's like you're walking to the edge of this cliff, this infinite cliff, and down below it's just pure darkness, and you're going to go, it's going to be terrible, you're going to go off this, and all the worst things are going to happen to you when you fall off. You'll be, you know, cut to pieces on sharp rocks as you go down. It's just going to be whatever your mind wants to imagine, going to be terrible. Don't go off the edge of this cliff. And then you do. You do. And what happens? All the fear vanishes. And you're in this higher consciousness. You're in this more awareness. And you feel wonderful, free, bliss. And you have that experience often enough, you're more ready to go off the edge of the cliff each time. And each time you experience the same thing. Fear is holding you back. And something else in you is saying yes. Do it anyway. Because this fear is illusion. And when you believe it, it doesn't feel like illusion. When you believe your thoughts, that it doesn't feel like illusion at all. It feels absolutely real, because this is how you've lived your life, in this conditioned way. Your reality is your thoughts about things. Your perceptions, what you see, how you literally see forms and color, is created from your thoughts. Reality itself is not like that. You cannot describe it. It's an eternal mystery. To our mind, our minds are very limited. This here, this infinite, this understands, this knows, but not in a thought way. It's a different kind of knowing, as I've said before. Yeah. It's a different kind of knowing. And in order to experience this different kind of knowing and experience this unlimited being, we need to let go of our ordinary knowing. So the truth is, this real teaching doesn't come in words. Doesn't come in my words either. I'm pointing to something that no words can touch. And yet, because you are this, you can experience it. If the alternatives, if your thoughts and beliefs, perceptions are out of the way, and you just let be what is, without questioning it or interpreting it. You just let everything just be. The truth of your spiritual heart may be realized by you, may be experienced by you. This says, be quiet. And let this speak. It's not only speaking here, it's speaking in you. You only have to listen. Pay attention. Let go of the interference of your thoughts. Just pure being. You honestly don't know what any of the words that I'm saying mean, because they have no real meaning. They're pointing to something that's beyond words. Their meaning is not what they're pointing to. They're all pointing to something beyond words, beyond even what you think silence is, or stillness. Because silence is not what you think it is. Stillness is not what you think it is. God is not what you think it is. And you are not what you think you are. Accept that. Allow this. Be comfortable with this. And this reveals itself to you. You don't have to wake up. This is already awake. It's always been awake. Relax what is not this. Let go of everything. So you can hear this. It's your true voice. Your true being. And it is not a thought. So if thoughts come up about what it is, that's not what it is. When thoughts are still, quiet, fade into the background. This reveals itself. This is you. This and you are no difference. There is no separation between this and you. There is only one spiritual heart throughout all existence, and that is you, me and everything else. All boundaries and borders and separation and individuality dissolves in this great light of wisdom. Which is you. which is not separate from anything in all existence. If you feel how good this feels, that's you. That's the truth. You're resonating with the reality of what you are. If you feel how beyond all thoughts and beliefs and sense of a separate person and all this, all suffering, it's beyond all this. If you feel something so far beyond all of that, that it all just falls away, all just dissolves in this great light. And don't hold to it being light. It doesn't have, it's whatever you experience. But the bliss of this is a way that you know. The great unconditional love of this is how you know. Not for any particular thing or being, just love as itself. Non-separation. The oneness of all existence. If you feel this, if you can feel this now with me here in Satsang in this moment, know that this is not a special event or occurrence, or this is just recognizing yourself, recognizing the truth of your true being, which is always here. No matter how lost you've been in illusion, Maya, the dream, as all the rest of humanity is, this has always been here. You just weren't aware of it. You just weren't paying attention to it. You were lost in your mind, in your conditioned thoughts. As everyone is, as all humans are. Until we become free. Until we stop letting this interfere with us, with what we really are. And we come back home. We don't need to invent our true being, our true self. We don't need to create it. We don't need any knowledge to form it. All those things would only get in the way. It is already here. It has always been here. Throughout all eternity, it has been here. Don't make a thought about what that means. Just relax. Just be. Without trying. Right? You can't try to be. You don't need to. You are. And what you are is so far beyond anything you can imagine that there's no reason to try. That's only how we become distracted and forget. On your in-breath, take all the entire world, the entire universe into you. On your out-breath, let all of it go completely. And pay attention to what's left. Most people, when they start going through experiences like this, have an experience, and they have visions and different things and different experiences, and then they want to describe this and sometimes tell other people about it. It's a very profound experience. But there's really no reason to do that either. Just let it be, moment by moment. Whatever comes, let it come. Whatever experiences come, let them come. Experience them. That's what they're there for. But don't hold on to any of them. None of them are important. No matter how profound, none of them are important. Just be. Allow everything to come as it comes, and allow it to go as it goes. You remain as the unchanging center. You remain as the source. And let those words go. Light, center, source, divine, God, infinite, eternal. Let all of that go. Whatever you think, let that go. Whatever you experience, let that go. Your true self is prime, deep underneath all of that. All of creation, the whole universe, and everything else, your body, your mind, your thoughts, all come from this. When thoughts come, just let them come. Let them go. Don't give them your attention. Don't feed them. They will only distract you from what is beyond thought. Okay, Craig, did you want to say something? No.
Oh, sorry. I said, can we just take one quick bathroom break?
Oh, okay, sure.
Your internet has been in and out all day.
Oh, okay.
So but it's just been kind of lagging like this, but it's still, and what's interesting is it still can't stop the transmission of being.
Good.
Even though it's trying. It's trying to.
Is it trying to?
That's the ego trying to stop the transmission, but even though it's been intermittent, it can't. I will be right back, my friend.
Well, it's true because the transmission doesn't depend on the internet. It doesn't depend on this because it's actually transmitting to people who aren't even watching or not even on the internet as well. Birds, they're not watching. That's how transmission works. It doesn't really depend on it. We're using this to bring our attention to it. That's what we're doing. We're bringing our attention to it.
I'll be right back in 2 minutes. Okay.
Thank you, my friends. Allow this transmission to just be, in you. It is in you. It is in you. All this does is it sparks resonates and opens up your awareness of what is always in you.